Today's passage is from the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verses 7 through 13. Revelation 3, 7 through 13. To the angel of the church of Philadelphia write, these are the words of him who is holy and true, who holds the key of David. What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open. I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know that you have little strength, that you have kept my word and have not denied my name. I will make those who are the synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews, though they are not, but are liars. I will make them come down and fall at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you. Since you have kept my command and endured patiently, I will also keep you from the hour of trial that is going to come upon the whole world to test those who live on the earth. I am coming soon. Hold on to what you have, so that no one will take away your crown. Him who overcomes, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God. Never again will he leave it. I will write on him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which is coming down out of heaven from my God. And I will also write on him my new name. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. Have you heard the joke about anticipation? Some of you will get it later. Today I want to talk about anticipation, about what we get excited for. I admit, as adults we tend to have less excitement. We don't get excited the way kids do. Kids get so excited over Christmas or a birthday or an upcoming trip they just can't contain themselves. As adults we tend to have a little less excitement. As we've experienced more, we also have first-hand knowledge of disappointment. So I think we're less likely to get excited. Today I want to talk about what we can get excited about. Now in part, we're going to look at the letter to the church in Philadelphia. And if you have a good memory, you might notice that the letter to the church in Philadelphia is strikingly similar to the letter to the church in Smyrna. That is, Jesus talks about the same basic concepts, he covers the same material, even uses some of the same words to describe what was going on in these churches. After his introduction, these churches, he says, are the ones that are really doing well. Jesus doesn't hold anything against them. There's no heresy in the church, there's no hypocrisy, there's not a Balaam or a Jezebel leading the people astray. They haven't lost sight of their first love. On the whole, these are the churches that are doing well, but they are facing persecution. It's worth noting that the churches that Jesus has the most good things to say about are also the churches that were doing the worst by human standards. These were churches that were serving God, but they were suffering from persecution. And they were struggling. In the church in Smyrna, he said that he recognized they were poor. When he says they're poor, I don't mean they weren't sure if they could afford a second vacation this year. The members of the congregation, the church as a whole, was barely getting by. They were in poverty. But Jesus said they were really rich in spirit. And along the same lines, in the church in Philadelphia, Jesus said he knows that they are weak. Yet their weakness was what little strength they had was outshining the churches that were powerful and successful by earthly standards. He said that he knew they were facing persecution, but they had not denied his name. They remained true in him. And he mentions the persecution that both these churches were facing were coming from more or less the same source. That is the synagogue of Satan, the people who claim to be Jews but were not. To be a Jew is to be someone devoted to the law of the Lord. But the so-called Jews in these towns were ignoring God's law. They were turning Christians over to the Roman Empire, knowing full well the empire was persecuting them for their faith. And so they had ignored God's law to love your neighbor as yourself. And this also gives it kind of the heart of both of these letters. These are godly, good churches that are facing intense persecution. Now, that is an important point. And there's a lot to be said about it. However, I kind of feel that I said everything I have to say when we looked at the letters to Smyrna. I don't have much to add on that topic of persecution. So, if you'll grant me the grace, I'd like to do something a little different today. All of the letters in the book of Revelation follow the same basic pattern. First, Jesus tells us something about himself. He is the Son of God. He is the one who holds the stars in his hands. He is the one who what he opens cannot be shut, and what he shuts cannot be opened. And then he talks about what the church is doing right, if they're doing anything right, and what the church is doing wrong, if they are doing anything wrong. And he closes with a promise for those who overcome. That last part's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the promise that Jesus gives to those who overcome. I know for my own part I can get caught up in the daily duties of the Christian life that I forget what it is we're striving for. So I want to talk about what we're striving for. What is the point? Why do we go through these struggles? I want to talk about the promise that Jesus makes to us. I think a lot of us know the basics of the promise, that if we are faithful to the end, that we will be with God in heaven. That is a place where there is no sickness, no death, no sin. But that's just the start. I want to go a little deeper than that today. I want to talk about some of the promises that Jesus made in these first chapters in Revelation. These are reasons to be excited, to anticipate heaven. I want to talk about 5 promises that Jesus makes to us in these letters. 5 reasons to be excited about heaven. Number 1, the food will be good. Food matters to me. I like to eat. I'm naturally a thin guy. When I graduated from college, I was 6'4" and weighed 165 pounds. I wasn't just thin, I was skinny. Then Leanne and I got married. She's a pretty good cook. That has gotten me in trouble over the years. I never even had to think about dieting until we got married. But food is important. We all care about food. And I think everything we do at church is better if we include some food. Donuts this morning. And I would guess on an average Sunday, probably more than half the Christians in the country who went to church then go out to eat. We care about food. And Jesus himself repeatedly described heaven as a banquet of God. And the prophets and the Psalms described God's grace as a banqueting table. And then, in the letter to the church in Ephesus, Jesus said, "To him who overcomes, I will give the right to eat from the tree of life." I hope that phrase, the tree of life, is familiar. Go back to Genesis, in the Garden of Eden. There were 2 trees. There's a tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which represented sin. And there's a tree of life, which represented a right relationship with God. And now, Jesus says that if we overcome, then we have the right to eat from the tree of life. And one of my favorite images in the book of Revelations is in the last chapter, where John says the tree of life will be in the paradise of God. He said that there is a river flowing from the throne of God, and that the tree of life is on both banks of that river. Think about that for a moment. There is one tree on 2 different banks. If you go out to California, there are a few redwood trees that are so big you can drive a car through them. The image that John was playing with here is that the tree of life has been growing since the beginning. And now it is so large that a river flows through the tree and it's still on both banks. And Jesus says that if we overcome, we can eat from that tree. Now, what is that like? C.S. Lewis, in his book, The Last Battle, which is the final installment of the Chronicles of Narnia, tried to describe what that tree might be like. Lewis wrote, "And what did the fruit taste like? Unfortunately, no one can describe it. All I can say is that compared to that fruit, the ripest grapefruit is dull. The juiciest orange is dry. The meltiest pear is hard and wooden. The sweetest wild strawberry is sour. Having once eaten from that tree, all the nicest things of this world taste like medicine." But no one can describe it. If you want to know what it's like, you'll have to find your way to that country and taste it for yourself. The promise of God is that if we remain faithful, we will eat from that tree. Number 2, new clothes. I'm not really a clothing guy. It's not something that I care a lot about. If I ever look good, it's because of Leanne. I have neither the ability nor the interest of creating an outfit. Probably a gender thing. Women tend to get more excited about clothes. I know that's not really deep revelation, but Leanne gets genuinely excited, and Paley gets overjoyed at the idea of a new dress. These are things that matter. But clothes matter. In the book of Revelations, Jesus later will say that our righteous deeds will be like a white robe on us. And his letter to the church in Smyrna, Jesus said, "To him who overcomes, who's faithful even to death, I will give a crown of life." I can't even wear a hat. I kind of wish I could. I think that the old Indiana Jones style fedora would be cool. I can't pull off that look. But a crown of life sounds amazing. I know you might notice a pattern here. Jesus said that we will eat from the tree of life, that we will wear a crown of life. Jesus has offered us life. In the Gospel of John, Jesus said, "I have come that they may have life, have it abundant." That abundant life begins now in this world, but it reaches its completion in the age to come. The promise of God is the promise of life. Number 3, a secret with God. I want to tell you something about my daughter. Paley cannot keep a secret. At all. Do not say anything to her or even in front of her unless you want everyone to know. This makes shopping for presents difficult. If I want to go get my wife a present, I cannot bring Paley. Because I'll go to the store with her and we'll buy the present. On the way home, we'll have a conversation about how this is a surprise. And we're not going to tell Mama about it. And she'll say, "Yes, Daddy, I will not tell Mama what it is for her birthday." 15 minutes after we get home, she's already told her. I suppose it's a good thing that she doesn't keep any secrets from her mother, but it does make shopping more difficult. Well, Jesus said that we will have a secret with God. In his letter to the church in Pergamum, Jesus said, "To him who overcomes, I will give a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to him who receives it." That is the promise of God. That is the secret. A new name known only to you and to God. And really, this is a symbolic statement of a relationship. Our God is the God of the universe. He is the God of everything that is. He is the God of every person in history. He's also your God, personally. He knows you. For every person who has come to Christ, he has picked out a new name just for that person. In the ancient world, a name wasn't just something to call a person. It was a description of who they are. Throughout the Bible, God changed people's names on various occasions. In each case, it was God saying, "This is who you really are." And God says to each of us, "I know you. I know who you are." And he gives a new name and says, "This is who to To overcome in God is to be given a new name. Number 4, popularity. We all kind of care about popularity, I think. We want to be liked. We are social creatures. I've said many times that we are not meant to be alone. I think one of the saddest parts of the execution of our Lord is that his disciples denied him. Can you imagine what it was like? What it would be like in your life to have someone you think of as a friend say they don't even know your name? Well, the promise of God is that we will never be denied. In his letter to the churches, Jesus said that if he overcomes, then I will acknowledge you before my Father and his angels. To be known by God is a promise that Jesus has, that if we will overcome, we will never be denied, but we will be known by God and his angels. This goes along with what I said a moment ago, that we are known, we are in a relationship with God. The famous philosopher, Socrates, once famously said, "Know thyself." It's a lot easier said than done. To genuinely know myself without any delusions or bias or self-justification, to know myself is not easy. But we are known by God. And Jesus said that if we are faithful, if we overcome, then we will be acknowledged before God the Father. This world has a fleeting memory, but to be known by God is to be known forever. Last one, number 5, a new house. This is one of the most interesting promises in the book of Revelation. It's not a new promise. Jesus has always promised us a new home. Over in the Gospel of John, Jesus said, "In my Father's house there are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you." Here in Revelations, Jesus takes that just another step farther. In the letter to the church in Philadelphia, Jesus said, "To him who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God." Listen, he says we will be a pillar, a part of the temple itself. We're not just visiting. We're not renting a room. We're not tourists or even residents. We are a part of the temple. It is a permanent home. If you ever feel like you don't fit in this world, it's because you don't. You shouldn't. One thing we all can agree on, this world is not a permanent home. This life was never meant to last forever. But we have a permanent home in God. We are a part of the temple. We can no more be removed from that temple than you could pull a brick out of an arch and expect the rest of the thing to stay standing. As long as the heavenly temple of God stands, that's forever, we will have a part of it. We will belong there. This is the promise of God. This is something to be excited about. This is the point. We have a home in him. As we know the basics, there is a home without suffering, without sickness, without death, without sin. It's so much more than that. It is the right to eat from the tree of life. It is a crown of life. It is a new name, known only to you and God. It is to be acknowledged for God the Father. And it is to be a part of the temple of God, to have a permanent home. This life has its struggles, but the reward is greater than anything this world has to offer. In a moment, we're going to stand for an invitation hymn. And if you have been struggling, if you have been pulled away, if you've been walking around in life wondering what's the point, the Word of God is available to you. We can turn to him at any moment. And if you need to turn to him, you have an opportunity. I ask you'll stand with me now for an invitation hymn. When I survey the wondrous cross, and we'll sing just the first verse.